Hello, and thanks for listening. This podcast is going to be about understanding all the different ways in which the human experience is, lived through from all over eras of history and today all over the globe, and with a specific focus on the United States of America, because that's my country and the country that I know the most about. And this podcast will have interviews with as diverse an array of people as I can muster. So everything from professors to Amish to fundamentalist evangelicals to immigrants to the rich to the poor, and try to just get a broader understanding of the languages that different people speak and how they find meaning in their lives and how they can be kind of heart without having to necessarily be the same. And so the general theme of this podcast is E pluribus unum, and it is written on the banner that the eagle is holding in its beak on the United States' seal. And you can see it on the back of money if you want. It's written there quite small. And what it means is that every single individual is unique and should remain unique. And if we respect each other's dignity, each other's basic dignity and right to be free, we can achieve unity through that instead of having to have an assimilative culture where everybody has to either talk the same or look the same. And so this podcast in general will produce themes of tolerance and acceptance. However, it will still be much stricter on interviews than, for example, the Joe Rogan Experience. And so interviewees will be challenged on their assertions and everything like that. There will be no conspiracy theories or conspiracy theory discussions. Instead, it will be about kindness of heart is the general theme, and trying to see the virtues in people. So if I do host somebody who has wild views, let's say a person who is a Holocaust denier, for example, I would not allow them or have any discussion about that on the show unless they're willing to, be torn down. But I'm not trying to argue about those kinds of things. Instead, you try to get beneath it and ask what the whole driving force is, why their lives have led them to be a certain way and hold certain views, what they've listened to, what they've experienced. And for me personally, it hasn't led to me liking everybody or wanting to be friends with everybody, but I have managed to be able to speak the language of politically and understand a broad array of people, which lets you better assess who is worthy of respect and reverence or even a vote, and who isn't, and who is genuine and who is not. So you can get a good compass for authenticity if you challenge people on their assertions and try to figure out where they come from. Is it just personal gain? Is it something from childhood? Is it their environment, their culture, their religion? And so it'll be a reminder to always see people as individuals and prove over and over again that whenever you put people in boxes and apply an ism or an ist, you're reducing the unique individual to something that is categorized, which we must do, but we must also remember that people are not political slogans. People are not political parties. And we can show on this podcast and also on the YouTube channel that accompanies this podcast all the ways in which people can come to terms with the unknowns in life and the challenges in life without harming other people, and yet still doing everything that they want to do and expressing their freedom in the way in which they want to. And I think that it allows us to more readily confront the sort of crossroads that America is at. Basically, whether or not we should stick with E pluribus unum or go the way of other Western democracies. And so, by understanding the perspective that some of the founders of the country had, and the vision that many millions of Americans have had throughout history, I think that it is important to have all kinds of Americans, no matter how ostracized or toxic, on the show to look for the virtues or lack thereof. And I won't shy away from those who lack virtues. I won't shy away from saying so, that is. That sums up a good introduction to how this show will work. And it will be interviews, discussions on modern topics, along with background history. So, for example, a whole series on the Afghan War and all the way up to the United States withdrawal. So from the Soviet invasion to the United States withdrawal, I already have a lot of that up on the YouTube channel, but I want to make the podcast the main way in which I produce content, because it is less time consuming to operate in the sound realm, and I can do better editing with the time that I have available and make it sound more professional. Whereas with YouTube, it takes a lot to make a truly high quality video that doesn't look like somebody on a webcam in their bedroom, you know? So I am primarily an author. I write science fiction, and I am close to my first publishing, but I am holding off because of how perfect I want it to be before I decide to commit and finally put my name on something. But That's what I spend most of my time doing. And so this podcast is both my main activity and not, in the sense that it's what I put the most day-to-day effort into, but it's not necessarily the thing that I am most devoted to. However, I will spend a lot of time chasing down interviews. I spend a lot of time trying to invite all the people I know to have all different kinds of perspectives. There will be a focus on race issues for a decent amount of the podcast. It's meant to broach the subjects that are least broachable. So, for example, there is on the YouTube channel, there is a Kyle Rittenhouse interview analysis. There's discussions about homelessness and the mentally ill, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, everything that people are casting stones upon another for. Everything that's getting people to hate each other is what I want to explore, because I think that declaring somebody your enemy is a very serious thing. And if it's your fellow countrymen, you need to be very sure. And so while I personally am still on this kind of journey to figuring out exactly where I lie, because every person is a weird mix, I want to at least convey the method of coming to understand and talk to people without having to actually talk to all these people yourself, the listener. So I really hope fundamentally that this podcast makes you learn things that you didn't know before and gain perspectives that you didn't gain before. On that note, beyond interviews, there are philosophy, mythology, and religion analysis content. A lot of that accompanying some of the science fiction material that I can read short chapters in audiobook form only in regards to the philosophical or relevant discussion that we're having, as an example or juxtaposition, but only as separate episodes. So, thank you very much for listening to this intro. It is about 13 minutes, and I want most episodes to run in the 30-minute to 1 hour range, with interviews being about that long as well. However, I also want to do shorter episodes. There will be a long series on misconceptions, because if people have less misconceptions, we can agree. The truth is a good anchor. We can stop arguing if we can get past a lot of the common misconceptions that people use to throw stones at one another and have prejudice against one another. And with that, thank you very much. I hope that you very much enjoy this podcast. And I also hope that it helps people, anybody out there. I will be going into themes of mental illness, suicide, depression. It's all related to understanding. So, with that, thank you very, very much, sincerely.